Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Modern Study Pro. In today's video, we're covering Chapter 6, Salts, with solved MCQs, short and long questions explained clearly. Check the description for timestamps to skip to any part, and remember, we upload new videos every Friday. Let's begin. Multiple choice questions with explanations. 1. Which of the following salts is soluble in water? Correct answer, C. Sodium nitrate, non-O3. Explanation. Sodium nitrate is a salt formed from sodium and nitric acid. According to solubility rules, all nitrates are soluble in water regardless of the metal they are combined with. Therefore, sodium nitrate dissolves easily in water. 2. What type of ions do bases provide for salt formation? Correct answer, B. Positive ions. Explanation. Bases contain metal ions, which are positive in nature. These positive ions, called cations, combine with negative ions, anions, from acids to form salts. For example, sodium hydroxide, NaOH, provides Na ions when forming salts. 3. What is the primary reason salts have high melting points? Correct answer, B. Strong electrostatic forces. Explanation. In ionic compounds like salts, positive and negative ions are held together by strong electrostatic forces of attraction. A large amount of energy is required to break these bonds, resulting in high melting and boiling points. 4. In what state are salts generally good conductors of electricity? Correct answer, B. Molten. Explanation. In solid form, ions in salts are fixed and cannot move, so they do not conduct electricity. However, when molten or dissolved in water, the ions become free to move, allowing the substance to conduct electricity. 5. Which of the following is a general solubility rule for chlorides? Correct answer, C. Chlorides are soluble except lead and silver chlorides. Explanation. Most chloride salts dissolve in water, but there are exceptions like silver chloride, AgCl, and lead chloride, PbCl2, which are insoluble or only slightly soluble. 6. What happens to the ions in a salt when it is dissolved in water? Correct answer, C. They become mobile. Explanation. When a salt dissolves in water, it dissociates into its ions. These free-moving ions are responsible for conducting electricity in the solution. The mobility of ions is what makes salt solutions conductive. 7. Which of the following methods is used to prepare a salt by titration? Correct answer, B. Acid plus insoluble base. Explanation. In titration, an acid is carefully reacted with an insoluble base to form a salt and water. The base is added gradually until the solution is neutralized, producing a pure soluble salt. 8. Which of these salts is insoluble in water? Correct answer, D. Lead chloride, PbCl2. Explanation. Lead chloride is considered insoluble in cold water, though it may dissolve slightly in hot water. It is one of the exceptions to the solubility rules for chlorides. 9. Which ion is commonly found in soluble nitrates? Correct answer, B. NO3, nitrate ion. Explanation. The nitrate ion, NO3, is present in all nitrate salts. One important solubility rule is that all nitrate salts are soluble in water, making NO3 a key component in soluble salts. Short answer questions, detailed. 1. Define what a salt is in terms of ions. A salt is an ionic compound that is formed when the hydrogen ion, H, from an acid is replaced by a metal ion or a positive ion, cation, from a base. Salts are made up of positive and negative ions held together by strong ionic bonds, and they are usually neutral in charge. 2. Why do salts generally have high melting points? Salts are ionic compounds composed of oppositely charged ions held together by strong electrostatic forces. These forces create a strong ionic lattice, and a large amount of heat energy is required to overcome these forces during melting. That's why salts usually have high melting points and remain solid at room temperature. 3. Describe the lattice structure of an ionic compound. The lattice structure of an ionic compound refers to a regular, repeating three-dimensional arrangement of ions. In this structure, Each positive ion is surrounded by several negative ions and vice versa. This organized and tightly packed structure provides salts with strength, stability, and how do salts conduct electricity when molten or in solution? Salts conduct electricity when they are either molten, melted, or dissolved in water because their ions are free to move. In the solid state, the ions are fixed and cannot carry a current. But when the salt is melted or dissolved, the crystal lattice breaks apart, and the ions can move and carry electric charge, making the substance conductive. 5. List 3 salts that are generally soluble in water. 3 salts that are generally soluble in water are sodium chloride, NaCl, common table salt; potassium nitrate, KNO3, used in fertilizers; ammonium sulfate, NH4, 2SO4, used in agriculture. These salts are soluble because they follow general solubility rules. 6. What happens to the ions in an ionic compound when it dissolves in water? When an ionic compound dissolves in water, the ions separate and become surrounded by water molecules in a process called dissociation. These free ions are now mobile and can move independently, allowing the solution to conduct electricity and participate in chemical reactions. 7. Do you think most carbonates are soluble in water? No, most carbonates are not soluble in water. The majority of carbonates, such as calcium carbonate and lead carbonate, are insoluble. However, carbonates of group 1 elements, like sodium and potassium, and ammonium carbonate are exceptions and are soluble in water. 8. How can you prepare a soluble salt using an excess of an insoluble base? To prepare a soluble salt using an insoluble base, follow these steps. Add the acid, e.g., sulfuric acid, to a beaker and heat it gently. Slowly add the insoluble base, e.g., copper, 2, oxide, to the acid while stirring. Continue adding the base until no more reacts. This means all the acid has been neutralized. Filter the mixture to remove the excess base. Evaporate the solution gently to concentrate it and allow salt crystals to form. Finally, remove and dry the crystals. 9. Which salts are typically soluble according to the general solubility rules? According to general solubility rules, the following types of salts are always soluble in water: all salts of sodium, Na, potassium, K, and ammonium, NH4; all nitrates, NO3, acetates, CH3SO, and most chlorides except silver and lead. These rules help predict which salts will dissolve and which will not. Long answer questions fully explained. 1. Explain the process of preparing a soluble salt using titration. Titration is a laboratory method used to prepare soluble salts by neutralizing an acid with an alkali. The steps are: use a pipette to measure a fixed volume of acid into a conical flask. Add a few drops of a suitable indicator like phenolphthalein or methyl orange. Fill a burette with alkali and slowly add it to the acid while swirling the flask. Watch for a color change, which indicates the neutralization point. Record the volume of alkali used. Repeat the titration without using the indicator to get a pure salt solution. Evaporate the water gently to form salt crystals. Filter and dry the crystals. 2. Discuss the properties of salts that make them solid at STP and have high melting points. Salts are made up of oppositely charged ions arranged in a fixed lattice structure. The strong electrostatic attraction between these ions keeps them closely packed, giving them a solid form at standard temperature and pressure, STP. Because of these strong ionic bonds, a lot of energy is needed to melt them, resulting in high melting points. 3. Describe the solubility rules for salts and explain the exceptions for chlorides, carbonates, and hydroxides. General solubility rules. All salts of group 1 metals and ammonium are soluble. All nitrates and acetates are soluble. Most chlorides are soluble, except silver chloride and lead 2 chloride. Most carbonates and hydroxides are insoluble, except those of group 1 metals and ammonium. These rules help predict solubility patterns in chemical reactions. 4. Explain why ionic compounds have lattice structures and how this influences their physical properties. Ionic compounds form lattice structures due to the strong attraction between oppositely charged ions. This arrangement is regular, repeating, and three-dimensional. The lattice structure makes ionic compounds hard and brittle, solid at room temperature, have high melting and boiling points, non-conductive in solid state, but conductive in solution or molten form. 5. Describe the preparation, separation, and purification of salts using an excess of an insoluble carbonate, providing an example reaction. Example: making copper, 2, sulfate from copper, 2, carbonate and sulfuric acid. Steps: add sulfuric acid to a beaker and heat gently. Add copper, 2, carbonate slowly while stirring. Keep adding until no more dissolves. This means the acid is neutralized. Filter the mixture to remove the unreacted carbonate. Heat the filtrate to evaporate some water and leave it to cool and crystallize. Collect and dry the blue copper, 2, sulfate crystals. Reaction. That was Chapter 6, Salts Fully Explained. If this helped you, do like and subscribe to Modern Study Pro. Don't forget, new videos come every Friday. Keep studying smart. Allah Hafiz.